Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, an opinion letter was posted by the Trinidad Express online, which stated the following. For months, the public has been asked to believe the economy turned the corner in 2025, and of course, they're talking about after UNC won the elections. But official numbers tell a different story, according to them. After 3 straight years of growth, Trinidad and Tobago did not accelerate in 2025. It slowed sharply. Now, of course, most likely this individual is either a so-called independent in Trinidad, or most likely a member of the PNM. My response, or support of the PNM, my response, 3 years of growth where? Up in the Holy Balize Temple, because that's the only thing was seeming as though it was prospering during that time. What was going to save our nation? The mighty muffin Ghana yam, which would have reduced the import bill and feed the nation. That's what we were told, that bringing Ghana yam into the country, Ghana yam seeds to cultivate, was going to reduce the import bill. Why? Because we will no longer have the need for macaroni pie and ham. Attempting to recover and to restore normal operation of businesses throughout TNT after 2 years of lockdowns isn't growth, people. You cannot consider that growth. That is getting back to what you were before the lockdowns. And it never even reached that stage. We never even reached back to how we were before 2020. TNT was like a person who was facing starvation for 2 years and then received rations from the UN. In reality, the government simply gave citizens the permission to return to their jobs and to reopen their businesses. You can't call that growth. You caused the entire economy to significantly shrink for 2 years. And then want to talk about growth afterwards when it's only trying to recover? I'm telling you, that is propaganda to the highest level. Most individuals didn't even receive any financial assistance, aka rations, to assist in the recovery process. They had to do it on their own. And listen to this, people, clearly. I saw it in Sangre Grande. A lot of businesses had to close permanently, and those that did not close, you know what they had to do? They had to resort to transforming their business into either hardware, or they had to transform it even to a vegetable stall in order to be able to continue to pay their rent and to survive. That's what Rowley and the PNM caused people to have to do. And you only want to talk about economic growth for 3 years? From what? From 0 to 10? Not 0 to 100, or 0 to 10? Because it never even reached back to normal. The PNM administration's claim of 3 years of economic growth is largely a statistical mirage that masks a fragile recovery from a self-inflicted freeze and a decaying energy backbone. The energy industry was dying under the PNM. Rather than representing true expansion or new industrial strength, the modest GDP increases from 2022 to 2024 were merely a base effect rebound as the country returned to normal business operations. Common sense will tell you that, following some of the world's most prolonged pandemic lockdowns. That's common sense, people. It wasn't about any economic growth. It was a country struggling to recover, trying to restore and reopen businesses. And therefore, what was frozen for 2 years started to flow again. The money started to flow, but that was not growth. You have no shame, PNM, to try to claim that an economy that was frozen was growing when all it was trying to do is recover. While the government touted these figures, the reality on the ground was defined by a 48% plunge in the energy revenue, multi-decade lows in natural gas production, and the shuttering of flagship plants at Point Lisas due to chronic gas shortages. By early 2025, this hollow momentum collapsed into a 2.1% contraction, proving that what was branded as growth was actually a temporary survival reflex of a nation struggling to offset the structural decline of its primary industry with a depleted foreign exchange reserve. That is what PNM patriots going outside there and using the Kakash media and the Kakash media affiliates to promote utter propaganda about growth. You have a store closed. Let's say you have a business closed for a year or for 6 months, and then you reopen and you start to make money again. You will say that is growth? I'm telling you, it is total nonsense. And the PNM patriots clap every time they hear those lies. That's the sad reality. Penal is seeing improvements to its water supply infrastructure. Under which government? The United National Congress, almost any People's National Movement. Lord Father, forgive me. Now that is lie. But anyhow, so yes, under the United National Congress. On Monday, Minister of Public Utilities Barry Padarath officially commissioned the Penal Rock Road Storage Terminal, turning on the water at the new facility. The project is part of a broader initiative aimed at strengthening water distribution across the Penal district. Several additional storage terminals currently in development. Now, individuals online said, I think that this initiative was envisioned by the mighty Muffin Ghanaian PNM. But a lot of the times PNM always has a lot of ideas, wonderful ideas. It's barely ever actually implemented. And even if it's implemented, it's in some kind of corrupt way. That's the sad reality. But nevertheless, this is good news for the people living in Penal.
Trinidad and Tobago weather report for Wednesday, May 6, 2026. General outlook forecast for Wednesday, May 6, 2026 indicates a mostly fair but hazy and breezy day. While early morning showers are likely, conditions are expected to settle by midday, leaving behind hazy skies due to Saharan dust. Temperature and heat index I temperatures will reach approximately 29 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius, 84 degrees Fahrenheit to 91 degrees Fahrenheit. However, due to high humidity, the heat index or real field temperature may climb as high as 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity and air quality humidity levels will remain high throughout the day, ranging between 70% to 90%. A moderate to high concentration of Saharan dust is present in the atmosphere. People with respiratory sensitivities should take necessary precautions when outdoors. Winds and marine conditions. Breezy conditions will persist with winds blowing from the east to southeast at speeds of 15 to 35 km per hour. Marine conditions are classified as moderate, with wave heights in open waters reaching 1.5 meters to 2.0 meters. UV index is expected to be moderate to high. Sun protection is recommended for anyone spending extended periods outside between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Regional news now. Bradley McKinney, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Commercial Service, recently commended Guyana's rapid transformation into a global energy leader, citing the nation's steadfast commitment to transparency as a benchmark for responsible development. We who had oil for decades upon decades, downhill because of the PNM. Right management under the Irfan Ali administration is making Guyana become a leading power in the energy industry. You see the difference? It's all about management, people. Speaking during the 2026 Offshore Technology Conference, McKinney highlighted that Guyana's approach, balancing aggressive resource production with transparent governance, positions the country not merely as an exporter, but as a strategic forward-looking partner for international investors. People have confidence in the Irfan Ali administration and Guyana at this point in time. This endorsement from the U.S. Department of Commerce underscores a deepening bilateral partnership, framing Guyana's energy model as a vital contributor to global energy security and a prime destination for American commercial interests. And that is why Guyana will continue to prosper even more. Because unlike the rest of tribal Caribbean leaders, they realize that they need America as a close ally in order to be able to continue prospering. They're putting aside tribal feelings and concepts and this hatred towards colonialism, and realizing we all have to work together in order to be able to prosper. Driven by the conviction that financial barriers should never obstruct academic potential, Kenroy and Melanie Moyston have launched the Open Door University Scholarship to empower aspiring tertiary students. This husband and wife-led initiative seeks to bridge the socio-economic gap in higher education in Jamaica, providing critical funding to those who might otherwise be sidelined by the rising cost of university fees. And probably to be able to stay and whatsoever as well, accommodation. By transforming their personal philosophy into a tangible support system, the Moistons are not only investing in individual futures, but are also fostering more equitable educational landscape for the next generation of leaders. Another inspiring story. It's not really anything pertaining to politics, but it's another inspiring story coming out from Jamaica. Minister of National Security St. Clair Leacock has expressed confidence in the work of the police in addressing crime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In an interview with SVG TV News on the sidelines of a two-day regional security meeting held at the Holiday Inn, Minister Leacock said the police have a firm handle on the crime situation. Anytime I hear politicians talking about police having crime under control, and then you will still hearing murders taking place, I just laugh, yes. I don't care about the politics when it pertains to that. He noted that law enforcement is implementing a strategy that is producing results. They all say that, and then the crimes continue. Minister Leacock also stated that authorities have a clear understanding of the gangs operating in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We all hear that too here in Trinidad. Despite the homicide count standing at 14 for 2026, 1-4, I guess they're smaller than Trinidad by far, but still by 14. Minister Leacock maintained that the police are now in a better position to respond effectively to criminal activity. I don't know about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I live in this. I don't know if they're actually implementing some type of really good measure to be able to control crime. If it's just talk, cheap talk, and more talk.
What I'm satisfied with is that the strategy and the dedication of the officers and men of the police force under the command of the commissioner here is delivering dividends. They frequently put out the bulletins on their success, but again, sometimes people take that for granted. Let's take the last weekend situation where they retrieved a firearm and some 16 rounds. Potentially, that is 16 lives saved. And I don't think it was the only recovery in the course of the week. I think they had already picked up another one. How many lives saved by that, we don't know. But the police implement a strategy. It would not be wise to give details on that. The police forces are going to address them. I know they've just got a few more vehicles. It allows them to, with a greater degree of mobility, to be sure they could do it more. If people are paying attention, the police are constantly training and retraining. And we are also in an exercise, we are rebuilding some of our tactical units. And people are going to see a more motivated police force, a more robust and mobile police force. And I'm encouraging citizens to cooperate, because the more citizens that are on board with us, the greater would be our success.
The 2026 Barbados Secondary School entrance examination ended smoothly, with more than 2,000 students sitting the 11 plus across the island. Education Transformation Minister Chad Blackman said all centers operated without major issues, apart from a slight delay at the St. Michael School. That is really good to hear. And I wish all the students all the best in the results that will be coming out. I don't know when results come out in Barbados. Most likely probably at the ending of this school term, just like how it has here in Trinidad and Tobago. And remember, even if you did not get your first choice, that's okay. That's okay. You can still pursue all your goals and dreams in life. No matter which school you end up in, you could accomplish all your goals. You could be able to still enter whatever career that you so desire.
A successful end to the 2026 Barbados Secondary School entrance exam, where over 2,000 students sat their 11+ exam. Minister of Education Chad Blackman reported that things went smoothly at all locations except for a slight delay at the St. Michael's School.
Common Entrance 2026 is now over. We receive our reports from our education officers that our children are happy, and we also are happy that this has now come to a completion today. Of course, we would have started this morning at the Dead and Griffith Secondary School. We then visited the Parkinson Memorial, where we would have witnessed, of course, our children doing the exams. And we're here now, of course, at Frederick Smith, where we would have seen our children complete the exam, and then they were met with their teachers and their parents, and they are now on their way. So now, of course, it's a time for them to relax and have some pause, and to have a well-earned and deserved break. So just to assure the country that we are happy with the things that have transpired. Just to know, however, we were just, of course, advised that there was some delay earlier at the St. Michael's School, but we're going to ensure that we look into it to see what has happened there. But equally, the exam has completely finished, and those children there are also in a mode of celebration.
Reporting for Barbados Today, I'm Dorian Graham.
The $700 million redevelopment of the Grand Lucayan Resort marks a pivotal shift for Freeport, signaling a surge in investor confidence as it transforms into a premier Caribbean hub. Centered on a 550-room Hilton hotel and an MSC Cruises beach club, the project integrates a mega yacht marina and luxury casino designed to attract 1 million annual visitors. That's a lot of tourists, boy. Do we get those kind of numbers here in Trinidad? By synchronizing this expansion with a total overhaul of the Grand Bahama International Airport, the island is poised to shed its industrial past and emerge as a world-class destination for both cruise and stopover tourism. Yeah, but you need to balance your economy. Don't just give up on the industrial production and whatsoever and investment. Diversify your economy. But remember that you just can't focus on one thing in order to be able to generate revenue. It's just the same thing. Like here and in Guyana, we use the energy industry as the backbone, and then we diversify. And I hope more diversification takes place soon here in Trinidad and Tobago. International news now. The conclusion of Operation Epic Fury signals a triumphant validation of the Trump administration's peace through strength doctrine, yet the transition to Project Freedom may be as much a legal reset as a strategic shift. Project Freedom could end up being a new military operation, not just to keep the Strait of Hormuz free of the terrorist attacks by the Iranian regime against vessels passing through. By declaring the offensive stage over just as the 60-day War Powers Act deadline loomed, Secretary Rubio has effectively outmaneuvered congressional constraints while maintaining a potent defensive presence in the Strait of Hormuz. This pivot secures undisputed diplomatic leverage, but the administrative reset of the clock ensures that should Tehran fail to meet U.S. demands, the path remains clear for a secondary military campaign launched from a position of renewed authority. So they could not continue with this particular operation because time was up, or almost up. So they said it ended, so that they use a lot of wisdom there, so that they can now start a new operation in time to come if the Iranians, which is not really about if, it is when the Iranians refuse to give up their agenda to destroy little Satan and big Satan. Little Satan is Israel in their minds, and big Satan is America. Millions of people they want to destroy. And yet you don't hear the Caribbean people talking about genocide when it pertains to things like that. And Caribbean people living in America too, you know. And they hear Iran saying, destroy the infidels in America. And you all bawling, we support Iran. My goodness, my spiritual blindness. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently shared that his hope for America hasn't changed. He wants it to remain a land of opportunity. Drawing on his faith and his own family's story, Rubio believes that in America, your future should be shaped by your hard work and God-given talent, not by where you started in life. For him, the American dream is about protecting a free society where anyone can succeed, ensuring our country continues, or his country continues, to be a leading example of liberty for the rest of the world. You're not supposed to end up being able to get a job because of who you are. Even if especially if it is you are, not especially, even if you are a member of a minority group. You cannot hire people based on that. You're supposed to hire people based on their qualifications, their experience, and their capabilities. That's what. And that is why so many conservatives, including myself, don't support DEI. DEI is actually a form of discrimination in people, because it tells people that you could only, because of who you are, you could only receive certain jobs and positions if you are given favor, not because of your talent or your educational background. That people is actually discriminative.
You've had a deep faith for God and country. At the end of the day, with all that you've been involved in,
keep going.
You've been extremely busy.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
As we all know. I got to ask you, what is your hope for America at a time such as this?
My hope for America?
And how do you personally deal with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, my hope for America is what it's always been. I think it's the hope I hope we all share. We want it to continue to be the place where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where you're not limited by the circumstances of your birth, by the color of your skin, by your ethnicity, but frankly, it's a place where you are able to overcome challenges and achieve your full potential. I think that should be the goal of every country in the world, frankly, but I think in the U.S., we're not perfect. Our history is not one of perfection, but it's still better than anybody else's history, and ours is a story of perpetual improvement. Each generation has left the next generation of Americans freer, more prosperous, safer, and that is our goal as well. But it is a unique and exceptional country, and as we come upon this 250-year anniversary, I think we have a lot to learn and be proud of in our history. It is one of perpetual and continuous improvement, where each generation has done its part to bring us closer to fulfilling the vision that the founders of this country had upon its founding. So,
on Monday, the IDF eliminated Anas Mohammed Ibrahim Hamid, a Nukba commander in the Hamas terrorist organization in the central Gaza Strip. Hamid infiltrated Israeli territory and the Nova Music Festival during the brutal October 7th massacre. The terrorist posed an imminent threat to the IDF troops operating in the Gaza Strip and was eliminated in a precise aerial strike. Prior to the strike, multiple measures were taken to mitigate the risk of harm to civilians, including the use of precise munitions and aerial surveillance. You see, Israel always doing that. Matter of fact, Israel is one of the only countries that warn civilians to evacuate areas before striking it to destroy terrorist infrastructure. They warn civilians. Now, if anyone remains, that is your choice. That is your choice. But Israel usually gives people up to about, 24, 48 hours to evacuate, even though they know a lot of terrorists will flee as well. And yet they still do it because they care about the civilians. The same civilians that despise them do. They despise Israel. Despise Israelis.
Bible quote of the day. Isaiah 53, 1-12. Who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities, upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.